All right, so we are looking this time today at rational numbers versus irrational numbers. So that is our topic, rational, that should say numbers, not number. So rational numbers versus irrational numbers. And our essential question is, how can you tell the difference between a rational and an irrational number? So that's going to be the question that we should be able to answer by the end of the class period. All right, so there is going to be a couple more square roots in this section, but this time we're going to be finding the square roots of decimals. So there's a special kind of decimal that we can take the square root of, and it's decimals that are in the hundredths place. If you guys all take a look up at the poster I have across the top up here with place values, the place value right to the right of the decimal is the tenths place, and right after the tenths place, that darker green one is the hundredths place. So that's 2 decimal places, correct? You guys remember this from, I don't know, where did we learn this? 5th, 6th grade? Decimal places? So there's the tenths place and the hundredths place. You can only take the square root of a decimal that is in the hundredths place, because 100 is a perfect square. You can take the square root of it. So only if it is to the 2 decimal places. But the nice thing is that all of our square roots should be to the hundredths place if it is a perfect square. So if the decimal's in the hundredths place, meaning there are 2 square roots, or 2 numbers after the decimal, then you can take the square root. And the square root basically is just the perfect square of that number. What is the square root of 64, guys? 8. So the square root of 0.64 is going to be not 0.8, but 0.08, right? Because the decimal moves over 2 spaces. So you can just take the square root of a perfect square that is in the hundredths place. You just have to remember that your decimal should be moved over 2 spaces. So 0.8 and 0.08 are 2 very different things. Okay? So the next thing that we are going to be expected to do is to convert backwards, back and forth between decimals and fractions. Okay? So decimals and fractions are actually the same thing. They're a piece of a whole, but they're just 2 different ways of representing the same idea. If you want to convert from a fraction to a decimal, you want to first make sure that the fraction is an improper fraction if necessary. So that means that there is no whole number on the outside. And then you just divide. You do your long division until you can't do it anymore. Okay? If you want to convert from a decimal to a fraction, you're going to write the number with the place value in the denominator, so that place value poster is going to come in quite handy to you. And then you're just going to reduce as much as possible. And we will do 4 examples of that. Okay, so example 1. I have a fraction that I want to convert to a decimal. Now, this one is already in its improper form. There's no whole number out in front, so we're good to go. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to divide. Now, when I'm dividing, remember the denominator goes on the outside and the numerator goes on the inside. Let me move that down just a little bit. So 9 goes into, 9 goes into 1. So how many times does 9 go into 1, guys? 0. So you're going to put a 0, and then you're going to put your decimal point, and then we're going to add another 0. How many times does 9 go into 10? 1. So you're going to put a 1 here. That's 9. We subtract, and we get a 1. And then we bring down the next. How many times does 9 go into 10? Once. Do you guys see what's going to happen here? What's going to happen? It's going to repeat forever and ever and ever. So we'll put another 1, and then we'll just put a ... meaning that it goes on forever and ever. So this one is going to give me 0.11 1, dot, dot, dot. And that's your answer. Okay, 0.111, dot, dot, dot. Same idea for negative 3 over 5. We know that our answer is going to be negative, so we're not going to worry about that right now. And we're just going to divide 5 into 3. 5 goes into 3 0 times, so let's add our decimals. And then 5 goes into 30 how many times? 6. And that gives me 30, and we're done. So our answer here is going to be negative 0.6. Number 4, 0.35. How many decimal places is 0.35? Is it to the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, millionths? What is it? Hundredths. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to write 35 over 100 because it's in the 100ths place. And then we're just going to reduce. What number goes into 35 and 100? 5. 5 goes into 35 how many times? 7. And 5 goes into 100? 20. Can you reduce that any more? No. So your answer is going to be 7 over 20. Okay?